It was 9 times.
Nine times.
Nine
Nine
times.
times. Shot
You
nine
didn't listen to
times.
the album.
I gotta get. I
You
did.
got to
I
go
love.
listen to the record.
Listen, I listened to Get Rich or Die Trying, but I remember loving the album, even though it was super ghetto. I mean, I was like 20 years old, whatever. But I
Many
listened to
men
that.
wish
Yeah,
death upon
and
me. Blinded
everybody,
by a dog and I
and I
can't
can't
see.
see.
I'm trying
I'm
to be
just
what I'm
trying to,
destined to be.
yeah.
And
But brothers
Negroes
trying
trying
to
to
take
take my
my
life. Go
life
ahead.
away, huh?
I put a hole in the ninja. All right, let me stop. Go ahead. Go
So
ahead.
so we look at that and we see that he's made a complete empire from telling his story. He went from making rap albums to making movies to making TV shows and getting so many brand deals off that basic story. So I do think that there's something there. I know that there's a lot of people that are scared to tell their stories. They're scared to they don't they don't necessarily always have the courage to tell the story. They feel like it's heavy. They think that it's not worth telling. They're scared to expose the people that they're in the story with. So there's all
Mhm.
of these difficulties that people experience when coming forward. But once they get over that, maybe heal themselves a little bit and put some time, space, and healing in between, it really is something that can be lucrative for you.
Well, what's really interesting actually, just since we're on the topic of 50 Cent, is that, if you remember that album, that iconic album that he made,
Mhm.
with Dr. Dre and Eminem and all that. Um, I remember listening to it, and I was a little older. I had just started teaching at Syracuse University, and I listened to it like everybody else did. If you remember, he starts off with this. This is a financial lesson, I promise you. That's why
Mhm.
I'm bringing this up. He
Mhm.
starts off with this very like sad tone. Many men wish death upon me.
Mhm.
They try to take my life away. I'm trying to I'm trying to rise up, but all these bad things are happening, which is a reminder. I remember when Will Smith punched out Chris Rock, Denzel got on stage, or I don't know if he said that something like, when you get to the top, that's when the devil shows up. Right.
Mhm.
So a lot of times, a lot of us go through that, right? We go through maybe a crabs in a barrel type situation. Give me a yes if you know what I'm talking about in the chat,
Yes.
where when you're rising up and you're trying to do better, you're trying to change, you're trying to grow, though that gravity kicks in. Those
Yeah.
other people, those haters, those people that don't want to see you rise, those people that don't understand what you're doing, that becomes a kind of a drag. And I identify with that, believe it or not. I ain't been shot 9 times, but I identify with it. But then
Yeah.
another thing about this is something that was subtle, but I think it's a lesson we can pick up on, was in his second song after that, very sad, depressing song. He comes back with, "If I can't do it, homie, it can't be done,
Yeah.
because I can make the
And then,
champagne bubble." And so he goes from very, very downbeat to very
yeah.
upbeat,
Yeah.
right? And the reason I bring that up is because of this. When you go through your darkest, most difficult times, and you have that darkness and that death, that terrible experience that you're going through, you can stay in the darkness, or you can
Mhm.
say, okay, now I'm emerging as like a phoenix out of the ashes. Tell me if you
That's
get
right.
what I'm saying, right? You're coming out
Mhm.
now. The superhero is born. If you read up on the origin story of any superhero in a Marvel comic or wherever, they always have a terrible origin story. It's
Yep.
always like, I was a scientist who worked in the lab and I got caught inside the particle accelerator and got chopped into 10 billion pieces.
Yep.
And then I emerged as, particle man, right?
Yep.
Now I've got these superpowers because I went through the mud, right? Like I went through the shit. Now I am the shit,
Yep.
right? Because so to be the shit, sometimes you got to go through the shit, right? And so really, I see that also that happens a lot in business.
Yeah.
Most companies, if you look at, for example, Uber is a super powerful company. They had a year where they lost $9 billion in a year, right?
Yeah.
Amazon was losing money. They were in dark times for a very long time. People were questioning whether this company should exist. And what was happening was Bezos was down low, making hardcore investments that will give a really powerful, what's the word, foundation
Yeah.
to one of the most powerful companies in the world. So sometimes you're going through hell because heaven is being built right before you. Like, you're getting the strength to create a heaven for yourself. So what I would say to you is that I believe, and this is my thesis,
Mhm.
Tiara. I want you to give me
Okay.
your thoughts on this.
Okay.
I believe that Black trauma, if it's processed properly and leveraged in an appropriate way and used to gain strength, is actually a powerful economic asset.
Absolutely. Here's the thing. I think that life is happening not just to us, but it's happening for us to have these moments. Black people are the creme de la creme when it comes to innovation and making something out of nothing. Hip hop was birthed out of what you just
Mm,
said, right? The whole
yeah.
idea of hip hop in the Bronx was because Black people were going through a thing. We was going through a lot of things, and we took that and made it so powerful. Now you cannot go anywhere on the earth and not hear
Mm.
hip hop coming out of the speakers of somebody's, Jeep in the
And,
office somewhere. You know what I mean? So I
and
just think
also
it's
also
important.
the blues. Like you
Yes,
can't do the blues right if you ain't really been through nothing, right? You,
yes, yes.
you
It's
got to
happening.
lose your house, lose your woman, get shot 9 times, go to
Gotta.
prison 25 years. Like, with the blues is better when people are digging in their soul and
Yeah.
finding that pain. The same thing's true with acting, I'm sure, right?
Yeah. Yes.
You know,
In order to be a good actor, you have to actually go through something in order to even relate to your character. You have to
mm,
because if you can't relate to the material, you don't have anything to pull from. So it's
mm,
absolutely, even with writing. I mean, I have sold screenplays as well. And so what you're saying is the formula. If you watch television, it's the same exact formula in television and film that you're watching every time. Like there's
wow.
a you're rooting. It's the same formula every time. So it's teaching you that formula and figuring out how to create that and take your own story and create that same formula and wrap it around a product.
Well, don't they call that the hero's journey? Is that what
The
it's called?
hero's journey. Yes. You
Yeah,
start out,
yeah.
like you said, in a crappy situation, then something happens to you that is life changing, that rocks your world,
Mm,
that changes
mm,
everything that you've known. And so now you're forced to go into a matrix of some sort. I always think about the matrix when I
yes.
think about this, because he couldn't go back to regular life. He had to
Mm.
he had to fight through the matrix and go through journeys and hit the wall and hurt and fall and all of the things before he could get to this place where we could root for him saying, oh my God, we want you to win at the end. And so
Yeah,
that's the formula.
yeah, I think that's really powerful and important. And I think it's really a matter of us, and the reason I think this is an important conversation is because it's really important for all of you in here to realize, you've got assets around you. You just have to tap into them.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we think that we don't have any wealth because we don't have any money. And it's like, no, sometimes your story, you might have $1 million story. 50 Cent, I guess, had $1 billion story, right? And sometimes the worse the story is, the more it can be propelled into something that not only gives you something like you talk about businesses and products and all that, sure, but then
Mm-hmm.
also it's just something that builds you, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's really,
Yeah.
most tough people have been through tough experiences.
Yep.
In fact, I don't know a single tough person who hasn't been through tough experiences. How the hell are you gonna be tough when you ain't never been through nothing?
Yeah.
Really? And who wants to be weak? Who wants to be out in this world broken and unable to accomplish things? No, like for example, I'm a tough scholar. I'm good at what I do. I'm very confident in what I know about finance. But I can't tell you how many times I was like sitting at my desk, like about to have a breakdown, trying to figure out how am I going to learn 300 pages of material in 24 hours. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I had a moment where I was crying at my desk. I was like, I can't do this. This is not going to happen for me. And so fighting through all that, when if you can make it, if you
Yeah.
choose, and this is where
Yeah.
choice is important, right? The
Yeah.
question is, okay, you met the devil, and how you going to respond now? How
Yeah.
what's your choice? Are you going
Yeah.
to lay down and bow down and
Yeah.
worship the devil? Like meaning, like, are you going to just stay in the mud and just say, well, I guess I'm going to be a muddy person, or are you going to fight back?
Yep.
And fighting back is against obstacles is it's messy. You feel like you on
Ugly.
thin ice all the time. You
Yeah.
slippery slope, all that stuff. You don't feel competent, comfortable, none of that. And I want everybody to know this because sometimes y'all can look at what I do or how I do it. Some of y'all are like, oh, you got it all together. No, I don't.
Yeah.
No, whenever I meet the devil, and the devil is growth to me. The devil is a growth is a situation that where I can't match the adversary that's in front of me, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's a decision.
Yeah.
You gonna grow, or you just gonna bow down to it? Which one are you gonna submit, or you gonna fight?
Yeah.
What say you, Tiara?
Yeah. A lot of people, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't they don't want to fight. Fighting feels hard. Fighting feels like, oh, let me just stay down in this mud and drink myself to death in this mud, or
Mm.
cope in whatever way that I can. But really, like if you can really figure out how to find that dog inside of you. And really I do think it's like going to the gym. I do think going like getting dog. I've been watching David Goggins lately, y'all. I can't take all the cussing, but Jesus, like but I get it. Like I get his extremism, and to be honest, I've been watching him for a while, but just recently, I was like, I want some dog. Like I want like that kind of dog. Now, do I want to walk around and cuss at everybody and be like, you gotta, it's nothing you need to do? No, but I do like that kind of extremism. Like, get it by any means necessary. It's time to get
Mm,
up and live life and be
mm,
present and fight for the things that you want in life
yes.
because we're here and we're alive and it's time.
Yes,
So
yes, 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 yes.
yeah,
And by the way, everybody, if you want to know who I'm talking to Miss Tiara Williams from she's from the Fly Nubian Money Club and also the Real Network. And
yeah,
she, by the way, she's doing a special session tomorrow on how to engage in what they call story selling, which is
yeah,
to leveraging your story to build your business. She's a storytelling expert. She's been in Hollywood for over 20 years. Is that right, Tiara? 20
yeah.
years, and as a director, writer, producer, actress, all these things, and so the storytelling is very natural for her. So she's actually training folks on this kind of thing. So the
I
here's a
can,
session. It's free. It's going to be Saturday at 11, and I'm going to put the link right here in the chat for anybody that wants to join. So save this link because there is a fee to join, but you guys can actually come for free. So here is the link there to be a part of what she's going to do. And I'm going to share this. And this is a reward for those of you that came to class live. I know some of you watched the recording later, and but I'll try to give those who come in live a little bit of a bonus. So anyway, so Tiara, so tell me this: when you talk about just storytelling and what you've run into in terms of the hesitation that people have about using their story for their
yeah.
business, what sorts of things have you run into?
Well, people thinking that they don't have a story, that it's not interesting, that they're not good writers or speakers, that they don't have time. Just, I've heard all the things. And again, not wanting to expose those people that are part of their stories, but I think it's so important to tell your truth. Some other people think, so this weekend or last weekend, we were at the Economic Elevation Summit, which I know some people, I see some people in the chat that were present. Hey, y'all. And something that you said that actually inspired me, and I took it with me. But you said that every person that wants to build economic wealth needs to sell something, needs to know how to sell something. So to me, we just went from 0 to 100 in my mind. I was thinking like everybody is my client then, because if everybody needs to be an entrepreneur and learn how to sell something, even if you don't see yourself as an entrepreneur, even if you're just like, I just sell something. Here's something this is something I created. Now you have to wrap a story around that and figure out how to take that one product and how to sell it and without selling it, without feeling salesy. The one thing is that people don't like to be sold to. They just like to be talked to and taken through this journey. And by the end, they're like, oh, yeah, where do I sign? What do I do? That's how you know you've effectively like really talked to people and related to them and they've kind of bought into your story. So that's what I would say, boys.
Well, that's
Everybody
really
got one.
interesting. That's really interesting that when you say that. I know that I saw something. I read a book about TED Talks,
Mm-hmm,
and I don't know if anybody knows this, but I saw that in TED Talks they looked at the ones that went most viral and the ones that people enjoyed the most, and they said that in those TED Talks, the speaker spent 72% of their time just telling stories.
mm-hmm,
And I think that that's an important point for anybody that has a business that wants to, um, connect with others. Storytelling is it's just an art form. I haven't mastered it actually. I mean, but I do remember, like your friend Les Brown, saying things like every story should have a point, every point should have a story.
mm-hmm.
I think that maybe if you're talking to your children and trying to persuade them of something, maybe it's better to tell a story. My father got me to never try drugs because he would just tell me stories about friends that tried drugs and it didn't work out. and
Yeah.
then you pick up the lesson, right? And as a
Yeah.
result, I've been drug free my whole entire life, even though both of my dads were heroin addicts at one point,
Mhm.
you know. And but I never touched any of that. I never touched drugs, never touched alcohol. I don't touch cigarette, none of that, you know. And I think so. In general, let's talk about your story. Like your story was pretty heavy. I mean, you went through a lot as a kid, and you had the resilience that was pretty remarkable. Did you want to share any of that?
Yeah, I mean, before I share my personal story, you say that you haven't mastered storytelling, but I disagree. I think that people follow you because you are very, very good at telling stories. You tell stories all the time. You give us analogies all the time. It's like if you do this and then you do that, then you got three farts and then you be like, what is happening, boys? You fart three times and then you breathe and then you get up. I'll be like, what is he talking about? But it always comes back to a point. It's the silliest thing when you think about it, because I love your analogies because they're always like, like kind of nerdy, and I love that. But you do. I think people connect with you because of the way you tell stories. I always remember, Grandmama Felicia. I always remember, these are women I've never met, but I'm like, Felicia was in Atlanta. Like I feel like I know your family because you've been telling us stories. So I think that storytelling, especially for Black people, when we didn't have pencil and we didn't have paper, we had story. We had our griots. We had people, we had our ancestors passing down those stories to us. So I disagree with you. But yes, but
Well,
yes,
thank you for
yeah,
disagreeing with
yeah.
me.
Yeah, I agree. I disagree. Yeah, but my own personal story, absolutely. It took a lot for me to get here. Like I haven't been in Hollywood. This hasn't always been my reality. Red carpets and celebrities and hanging out with really cool people like Dr. Boyce. I was born to a mother who was bipolar and a father who was a heroin addict. And I
Mm.
was actually left at the hospital, right? So my mother had made me,
Wait, left at the
yeah,
hot. What?
yeah,
No, wait,
yeah.
hold, wait. Okay, how who how'd
Yeah.
that happen? Where was everybody at?
Yeah, I mean, well, somebody came and got me for sure, but like my mother was just not equipped. She just wasn't equipped. And so I went off and I lived with my grandmother. I was actually a ward of the state of Nevada. And then I flew and lived with my grandmother in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. At some point, we moved to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and then I moved to New Orleans. So, before I was 4, I probably lived in 3 different states. And so
Oh,
my childhood really it just came to, but the thing about me was I was always a creative kid. I was always creative.
Mhm.
I was always the one standing in front of my TV watching in living color and dancing around and making up routines with my cousins. And we had a really big family. My grandmother had 12 children. And so half all the boys still stayed at home, which is typical, right? But all the girls went out and were independent and running businesses and building things. And I saw that. And so, my first business was a lemonade stand on the corner in Hazelwood in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I just was always trying, like always looking and trying. And so, eventually, I just used all that pain, all that trauma that I had, all those hardships. What I didn't know is that I had anxiety and I was depressed as a teenager. I didn't know that. I just got up and did. I just got up and moved.
Mm.
But now reflecting, now I'm in therapy. I'm like, but I just was trained to kind of just go. The blessing was that because I didn't have everything that I needed, I was always willing to hop up and just do things and like kind of live fearlessly. Like I didn't know what was in New Orleans. I met Master P on the street and was like, I'm an actress. I was like 19 years old. And I love Master P for that. And he said, well, you got to get to California. I said, actually, I'm going to California this summer. He was like, really? He said, well, let me connect you with a manager that I work with. And I said, okay. And he did it right there on the spot, connected me with the guy. His name was Leland Hardy. And I made that up in the moment. I was not planning on going to California, but you know what I did? I went to California that summer. And when I
Oh my
got
God.
there, I called Leland and he ignored me for the entire summer.
Wow,
But
that's crazy.
yeah, but
It,
I started to like crash people's like the movie sets and walk on set and just say, "Hey, do you need an actress today? I'm available." I was just doing stuff, y'all. And so anyway, I went back to New Orleans and I lived there and then Hurricane Katrina happened. And then when that happened, I evacuated to Houston, and I said, I'm just going to go to California. And I came
Mm.
here with a FEMA card and $250, and that was 20 years ago. So,
Wow. So that must have, I mean, that's crazy that you went through all of this and overcame all of this, and then Katrina happens.
and then Katrina
Oh my
happened.
gosh.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, when I got here, like maybe 2 days after I got here, there was my first earthquake. I was like, you know what, Jesus? You know what? Like, I can't take it. But we recently just had the fires. And so I got an
Oh, that's
evacuation.
right.
I know, so listen, listen, I would never tell anybody all of these stories, y'all, because I feel like, you got to pick one story, and we're gonna talk about that tomorrow. That you can't be like, I was born by the river, and tell me all the way up to you turning 50 years old. You can't tell me that story, but we're gonna find a story. But I'm just
Mm.
telling you, boys, because you're asking questions. But yeah, Katrina happened, and then recently the fires happened, and I received like an email or an evacuation notice, and I swear, y'all, I was so triggered. I was so triggered, but thankfully
Gosh.
nothing burned down. I got my place. We good. It would, it was good. So anyway, but yeah, that's where I came from. That's where I've come from.
Well, that's
Hardship.
it's really good to hear that you're okay in the fires because I know that there are some students literally in this class who had a lot of challenges from
Yes.
the fires, and my heart goes out to all of them.
Sending you
I
love.
know, like for example, I know Jen is in here, and Jen is really just a trooper in terms of all the things she's doing for the community and their family and everything, and I think her family was affected by the fires as well.
Wait,
So
I
let me.
was I was actually talking to Jen. You introduced me to Jen. And
That's right. Yeah,
I was
yeah,
talking
yeah.
to her that day. Hey, Jen, if you're here. But I was talking to her. I was talking to her the day that she was like, "Oh my God, we have to get my grandmother out. We got to get my
Wow.
grandmother out and go to the bottom of like it was a whole thing." And I was like, "Girl, I'll stay on the phone with you." So it's so I didn't realize that, but we talked, and she was like, "I think my grandma's okay." But we were on the phone literally as it was happening.
Oh my
Isn't that
God.
so interesting? Hey, Jen. Hey, Jen.
That,
Hey, girl. She
hey
said, "Thank
Jen,
you
how
for
you
that."
doing?
Yeah, we were on the
Yeah,
phone
that
together.
wow. Well, it's and it's one of those things where, when you talk about just our life story, it's one of these things where when I think about my own story, I think about the bad things that happen. And and it's almost like though, even though you had some of these crazy things that happen, I don't know if I would change anything about my story. You
No.
know, it's almost like if because really if you have the right attitude, right? If you
Yeah,
just say, okay, you know what, let me figure this out, let me solve this, you'll look back and you'll say, if this had not happened, I never would have been able to do this.
that's right.
Or if I hadn't, lost this person, I wouldn't have met that person, right?
That's
Or
right.
whatever it is, right? And so I think every story can be optimized, and I think just the attitude makes a big difference. And I want to encourage everybody to do that, because believe me, when you start a business, I mean, let me ask you, how many of you, give me a yes in the chat if you either are an entrepreneur or you want to start a business one day or own a business or whatever. Give me a yes. Everybody put your name of your business. If you have a business, put the name of the business in the chat. You got to market that thing. Okay.
Actually, Boyce, can I
So.
say this really quick? That I also have,
Mhm.
we have a Fly Nubian Money business directory. So if you want to get your business in our directory, have been building it for the last, I want to say 5 or 6 months. Please email me at info@the real. I'll give it to you tomorrow. Come to the training.
Okay.
I'll give it to you
Yeah,
tomorrow.
yeah, yeah. Type and you can type the email in the chat or I'll put it in
It's
there.
info
Yeah,
at realvirtual.net. Info
real
at real.
virtual. RE and that's REEL.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna put that in the chat so everybody can have it.
While he
Yeah,
does
and
that, y'all, make sure that you give me all the information. Don't just say my business is tender hands. Thank you very much. Like, give me your information. If you want to send me a little bio, number, website would be great. Don't just send me links to your rap albums. Listen, like y'all, just
but my album is good. My
and I
album
believe that,
lit.
but I'm not gonna watch it. I'm not gonna listen.
Why you hating? Why you hating? But yeah, I think so. So I think that, and I would encourage everybody that wants to be an entrepreneur to understand that not only do you have a story, but your business is going to have a story,
Yes.
and how that story ends is going to play a big role in what it's going to play a big role in how things sort of play out for you and in your attitude, right? So meaning that if what I meant to the better way to say it is that how you approach the problems that you run into, which you will run into problems, will play a big role
Absolutely.
in how your business story ends. That's
Right.
the more articulate way to say it. And effectively, because I don't know a single business that's ever been successful that didn't have just hills and valleys and bumps in the roads and pivots, constant
Yep.
pivots. So
Yes.
I would encourage you to think consciously about what kind of story you want to have and just understand what's going to be the driver of that story. And the driver should be a positive attitude, a
Yep.
relentless work ethic, circling back and trying again, consistent pivoting,
Yep.
never giving up, right? Because if you don't, then your story will just end flatly and the business will die. I want your business to have that hero's journey where you could say, gosh, I remember the time where we went through this and went through that, but here's how we solved that problem.
Yes.
Solving problems is probably one of, if not the most important thing you'll do as a business owner. You will always run into problems. I don't care what
Yes.
kind of business you're in, how much money you're making, or how little you're making, you will have problems. And what you want to do, and this is why healing and therapy and all this is so important, is you have to have a way to respond to the problem without just freaking out. Like
Yes.
freaking out and panicking is not a solution to a problem, right?
Yes.
Crying about it is not a solution. And this is something that I think has to be discussed in our community, Tiara, because we have people that just want us to always be victims. Like they want black
Right.
people to just sit in the victim box, never make progress, always feel sorry for ourselves, get outraged because of something else that somebody did to us or something else that happened. And I just don't see that making progress. I think that a better approach might be is if we say, okay, after we get outraged, what's going to be the plan? Right?
Yeah.
After we realize that we don't have any friends, what are we going to do next?
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like that's something that we want to see, more in our community for our economic progress. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. And I want to add to that. I just want to add failure to that. Right? Because we fail, you're going to fail so much. Failure and rejection should just be added. Like you should just add that as like a buffer. Like, okay, this is part of the process. So when you hit it and you get in those situations where everything is going awry and not the way you thought it was going to go, you can say, this is part of the process. This is going to happen over and over again. But I think what happens, boys, is that sometimes people they run into rejection and failure so often they think like, dang it, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Or
Mm,
they ease off of it. So they don't
mm,
still give the 100%, but they're right there, right? Like I often think
mhm.
about that little cartoon that I see of like somebody digging and then like they stop digging right when they were about to
Yep.
make it. Have you ever saw that? So it makes me think about the importance of just digging anyway. And just even sometimes knowing that sometimes the effort is going to be 100%, but sometimes it's going to be 10. Sometimes it's going to be 20. Sometimes it's going to be 40. Sometimes you ain't going to dig and you got to just sit there, but that's okay as long as you keep going.
Mhm. That's right. That's right. Yeah. I want to remind everybody this is Tiara Williams, and she is an expert on story selling. She's from Fly Nubian Money as well as the Real Network.
Yeah.
And they have the Fly Nubian Money Investment Club. If you want to join, you can go to flynubianmoneyclub.com. It's a great group, mostly women. Well, all the women are
We
all
got
the
some
teachers
men.
are all the teachers are women. There are
Yep.
some men in there as well. And so if you want to learn from smart black women who can consult with you and work with you on all levels of business and investing, just go to flynubianmoneyclub.com and do a free trial. In fact, they have something called the Level Up Lounge, and the Level
Yep.
Up Lounge is where they'll bring in some experts. You come in and you just hang out and you talk virtually with people that can help you solve a problem.
Yep.
People that can be part of your network, your mentors, your advisors, the
Yep.
people that can tell you. And these are seasoned experts who've already done it, so that really makes a big difference because they can help you come up with your $1 million idea. And also, Tiara joined us down in Miami for the Economic Elevation Summit. A lot of you were there, and if you were there, say something in the chat because I want everybody to know how great it was. Some of you came in virtually, which is fine as well. And if you haven't seen the recording, or if you want the recording of the Economic Elevation Summit, you can go to economicelevationsummit.com. That's economicelevationsummit.com, and you can actually get a big discount on it if you use the code word morning when you check out. Use the word morning at economicelevationsummit.com, and you can get the recording of the summit. So we can wrap up with a couple quick thoughts that I wanted to sort of share with you. So Tiara, in terms of storytelling, it looks like Hollywood is kind of struggling a little bit. It's especially with, not just with AI, but just a lot of things happening right now that's kind of,
Mm.
really changing the dynamic of just how storytelling is done in the form of movies. Like, you have a lot of influencers that seem to have the power of Hollywood studios. I've seen actually people, not just Mr. Beast, but other influencers literally creating their own studios now that are competing with the traditional studios.
Mhm.
What changes in LA have you noticed in your many years of being there that might be immediately apparent?
Well, I mean, I think people are working a lot less. Like you said, the structure, the way things had been done previously, there's a lot of rollbacks on positions. There's just a lot going on. I mean, storytelling is still being told. There's things still being sold. There's all of that is still happening, but it is happening on a smaller margin. And I think that people just have to get more creative about the way that they use their skills and now like how they do this Hollywood thing. I believe that you don't have to be in Hollywood to create Hollywood where you are. I used to teach a seminar back in the day about kind of creating a business or a Hollywood, or if you're a filmmaker or creative, you can kind of create that wherever you are. But here, people are really struggling. But I think that I see something great happening because whenever things like this happen, we have to pivot and we have to like retrain our minds to kind of um just see something else, like to be innovative, to evolve. So I think that's what people are learning to do, whether they're using the internet or creating apps or whatever it is. But people are changing the way they see filmmaking.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
always felt like Hollywood actors, actresses, writers, directors, and producers. I think that the industry trains many of them to undervalue themselves. It makes them believe that the skill set you have can only be applied in the industry that you're in,
Yeah.
and that's just not true.
Sure.
Like even when I was talking to LeVar Scott last night, the race car driver that we sponsor in the Black Business School, which by the way, LeVar is for a long time this season, he was the points leader in the ARCA series, by the way. You look up LeVar Scott, he's a great young brother. He came to the All Black National Convention and we talked last night and we were talking about his career, going forward, whether he's driving race cars for NASCAR or doing something else. And he was like, well, I don't really know if I can, see myself doing anything else. And I said, well, I think you're an amazing driver. You're one of the best in the world, but you got to understand that being that good at something translates.
Hmm.
The mindset, the fact that you're 21 and you can concentrate for 2.5 hours. Most young people don't even have an attention span that lasts 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So the fact that you can concentrate and do this highly dangerous activity of driving a race car 220 miles an hour, right? And then still come in like first or second or third or fourth place is amazing. Like, do you understand that you could take that same mindset and apply that to anything you do, and you
Yeah.
will emerge as a winner because you know what it means to be excellent,
Yeah.
right? And this is what I think about when I think about some of the best actors and actresses and directors, writers, and producers I've seen in LA. A lot of them work extremely hard.
Hmm.
Many of them are just beautiful people,
Yeah.
right? They're great physical shape.
Hmm.
They have to do these unbelievable things like memorize this massive script and you got 24 hours to do it. Can't nobody do that. Right.
Yeah.
And you got to sit on the set for 13, 14 hours, like,
Yeah.
to shoot the same scene over and over and over, like shoot the same scene 40 times and
Yeah.
have high emotion every time you do it.
Yeah.
I can't do that. And
Yeah.
so it's fascinating to me how you can have somebody that can I like as a businessman, I'm like, how is it that you have all that skill and you broke? That don't
Yeah.
make no sense.
I think, I was, listen, I was guilty of that, like coming here just saying, like, I seen myself working in this way. Like, this is the way that I want to be on SNL. I want to be a television a star. This is what I want to do. And then you get here and you realize that 1% of people get to live like that. And 99 others work every 2 years and make $10,000 a year. And so that was nothing that I wanted. So interesting that when I came, I was like, I'm an actress and I'm a singer and that's it. Right. But I met
Mm,
Blair Underwood and he was like, you can't just do that. He said,
mm.
you have to learn how to do all the things. You have to learn how to direct and produce and all of that. And it really set me on a path, Boyce. And so I've learned to leverage all of my skills. Now I help entrepreneurs with their on-camera presence. I've been ghostwriting. I mean, all kind of things, right? Helping consulting people on creating content for their own brands, all types of things. So taking all of those skills I've learned and translating them for business.
Hmm.
Yep.
I love that, and I totally agree with that. And I want to see if anybody can guess what word comes to mind for me. I've used this word a lot in terms of you realizing that you can do more than one thing. That this is a word that is essential to economic power. It's essential to freedom. There you go. Terrell got it. It's options. It's options. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sure, we do stock options and we talk about that all the time every week, but options in general always give you wealth and they give you power on some level. You're
Yeah.
never worse off when you have more options. And what does that mean? Well, it means that one of the reasons that so many people struggle in this economy, I want y'all to write this down, share this with your kids, is because they put you in a box. They train you to believe that you have no options. They train you to believe that the only way you can have any money in your pocket is if you go to college, go $100,000 in debt, and then go get a job working for some corporation, and they send you a paycheck. They don't train you to have options. They don't train you to realize like, no, you can invest in real estate and make money. You can go buy stock options and make money. You can go and start a business and make money. Right? You can get with your friends and come up with business ideas and make money. So when they taught you that you have no options, what they did was they restricted your economics because mathematically speaking, when you minimize the freedom, the degrees of freedom by which you solve a problem, you're going to get a suboptimal solution. What does that mean? That means that if you are restricted in how you go about fixing something, you're not going to be able to fix it as well as you could if you had complete freedom to do it. So a lot of times the restrictions are psychological.
Mm.
You were restricted. Somebody told you that this is the only way you can get any money, and then you're like, dang, I don't have any money. How do I fix this? And one of the things that you have, Tiara, that gives you a strength is that your necessity, your they say necessity is the mother of invention, right?
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you were kind of in this spot where you were like, okay, I gotta figure this out. You
Mm-hmm.
carved out options for yourself. So you
Mm-hmm.
learned how to survive even if Massa wasn't sending you the paycheck no more, right? You lose the job, or you're like, okay, how? Let me go to a movie set. Let me go and set up a catering business. I remember you telling me about that. Okay, let
Man.
me go and see if I can, do this service for you or whatever, right? And so we carve out options for ourselves. So I would encourage everybody to really think carefully about like what are my different options that I have, and how can I take what I know? I mean, you put in all this work, all this time. You've worked so hard to become skilled. Don't you never let anybody convince you that there's only
Oh,
one thing you can do with that skill. They do
oh,
that they even do that to PhDs. You'd be amazed how many brilliant PhDs I met. IQs off the charts, smartest people I've ever seen. And they think that the only thing that they can do with a PhD is go teach at a university. So when the
yeah.
universities stop hiring and stop offering jobs, you have these people that have PhDs in physics and
Mm-hmm.
philosophy, high level skill sets that are like making the same money as a welfare recipient.
Wow.
And my thinking naturally was, I'll be damned if I'm gonna study this hard for this long and you're gonna leave me broke. No, that ain't
Yeah.
happening. If you ain't paying me what I'm worth, I'm gonna go find a way to make it happen because
Yeah.
I done put in the work. I have the skill, I have the focus, right? So everybody out here that's worked hard, you got all this skill set. Create options for yourself. And if you don't know
Yeah.
what they are, go sit with people that can help you figure out what those options might look like. Right?
Yeah.
Like that's what LeVar and I are going to do. Like I said, look, man, just call me. Let's sit and talk about all the things that I believe you can do based on the massive skill set that you have. Because you're not a loser. Don't ever let the world make you into a loser. I'm done
Yeah.
talking. Thank you for letting me get that out. Tiara,
Oh
I'll
my
let you get
God,
that
that
out.
was so good. I mean, there were so many things that came up for me. And it really goes back to tomorrow's training. So listen, y'all, if you plan on coming to tomorrow's training, we are going to go through an exercise. Before I start teaching you story selling, we're going to go through this formula that I've been working with my clients with. And it's bring one offer, one idea for one offer that you serve one client on one platform with using one sales funnel for 1 year, right? So when you come tomorrow, we're going to do this exercise. So start thinking about one thing based on your story, or if you already have a business, I want you to come tomorrow kind of already doing homework. So the idea is it's 5 ones. All right. One offer, one client or target market, one platform, 1 year, one sales funnel, right? So I just want to make sure that, like, based off what you just said, Boyce, I feel like we can start with the power of one and then move on, right? So what do you have? What do you all have that you can sell? I love what Boyce just said. It just kind of triggered that. I don't know if I went in the right direction with that, Boyce, but I really want you to
Yeah.
start doing homework for tonight so that tomorrow we can just get it in. But that's the way we're starting tomorrow's training, just really thinking about what you can create, but not just create, what you can follow through on and commit to, what you love, you know? So that's it. That's
Yes.
all I want to say.
That's awesome. Well, by the way, everybody, here's the link one more time to join Tiara's session on story selling. That's going to be tomorrow morning. And so now, unfortunately, because we have so many great things happening in the Black Business School and over in Fly Nubian Money, there also is the Weekend Wealth Accelerator. I know a lot of you
Wow.
are, they're interested in day trade, not day trade, swing
They
trading.
swinging.
That's
Yeah,
different from
swinging.
day trading.
Okay.
Swing trading with the brother Lawrence Eggleston, the Panther. They call him Lawrence the Panther Eggleston.
I saw that.
He's going to basically break down all this in a boot camp this weekend. And so I'll text you all the link one more time if you haven't gotten it. You'll get that if you get on the text list for this class. To get a text message when we meet every morning for class, text the word morning to the number 87948. Text morning to 87948. And also one of you mentioned, do we have anything in crypto? Yeah, we do have a crypto club. You can go to b1crypto.com, b the number one crypto.com. If somebody could type that in, I'd appreciate it. b1crypto.com. Okay, guys. So have a good day, and thank you very much, Tiara. It was great to see you again.
Thank you so much for
And
having me. I appreciate you.
yes, absolutely. Same here. Same here. And we appreciate all of you. And go out there and get your money. Go build wealth. Look at that stock market. Look at that stock market. Remember, I told you all I buy dips and the market was dipping and everybody was panicking and because of the craziness of our president, right? You might like him or hate him. I don't care, but y'all know that man crazy. Anyway, now look at the market now. Look at how much money you have in your pocket now as a result of the fact that you were being consistent. Be consistent, be consistent, be consistent, be consistent. That is how you win. So God
That's
bless
it.
you. Have a great day, everybody. All right. Thanks a lot, Tiara.
I'll see you
All right. Bye.
tomorrow.
Yep. See you then. Bye bye.